Okay, so as the slide says, we are talking about the responsible conduct of research, supporting the notion that ethics is actually good for you. And it also supports the idea that you already know or should know a lot of the ideas about research ethics and morals and behaving well and all that. And the whole point of these sessions is to just more or less act as a reminder for things. And I hope you feel open to asking questions as we go along, and that's the most important part of doing this, either live as a one-on-one or in a classroom where I'd be there talking, or electronically through Adobe Connect, is that we have an exchange, and I really depend on that. So please feel free to raise your hand if you are Clark Kent or anybody else there in the classroom. Speak up.
Clark Kent is
Oh,
me,
that's you?
Felipe.
Oh, okay. All right. Clark Kent.
I just want to see what the students are seeing.
Ah, gotcha. So this is the bottom line, really, is that there are ethicists all around us, and people don't want to have to do research ethics or take these sorts of classes if they're told they have to, but they'll do it on their own if they think it's important and part of their professional development. Another important bottom line point is they'll do whatever their advisor tells them they have to do, and not that there's anybody there that would fall in that category, but your advisor, your mentor, is someone that is works hard to get your training in place to be a professional scientist at some point. Um, and this also this also is relevant to you in that um, that bottom part. Call me, even though I'm at UNM and you guys are at Tech or whatever. If you have any questions about any of this material, I would welcome you to email me or drop by if you're in town to talk about that. Any issues that might come up for any reason. Does anybody there ever had research ethics training? Do you know what RCR is or is about? You can raise your hand or click the little click box. So of the 8 people I can see, nobody's raising their hand. RCR. What does that mean?
I saw that.
What's that?
I was just commenting on, I raised my hand when it was out of the screen, so it doesn't look like it.
Oh, good. um, So to get what RCR is, it's a responsible conduct of research. But let's take a little quiz real quick. It'll take about 5 minutes, and Felipe will put this up on the screen here, and then I think you've got another version of it on the big screen. And what this is, it says survey of ethical theoretic aptitudes. I borrowed this from somebody. So it says each of the following statements can be completed in 2 ways. That is, circle A or B. Think about the alternatives. Circle the one that you think is best represents your feelings, and don't think about it too hard. Just jump on it. It's 1 through 15. So if you have a piece of paper there, just make 1 to 15, and fill in A or B under each of those things. So can you read the questions? Okay, I won't read them out loud.
We can read them well.
Okay, so I'll give you a minute or two. Um, I'll give you about 5 minutes. Been good. Maybe another minute. Okay. Everybody get a chance to finish it? Just nod. Got a couple of nodders. Anybody still working on it? Can't quite tell.
I think we're pretty much all done.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, so here's the answers. What that means. What that means is count your odd-numbered questions in which you responded A. Count the even-numbered questions to which you responded B. Now this is higher math, all right? So hope you're all chemists, right? That's a good answer. And then you add the two numbers together and subtract 8 from the total. So an example would be, oh, I think I can, oh, I won't do this. Maybe I will. So let's say you had 1 was an A, 2 was a B, 3 was an A, 4 was a B. You added up all the odd number A's. So far I've got 2 A's, 2 B's. Add them together. Subtract. Are we there? To get it? Higher math figured out? Then subtract 8 from the total. All right. So did everybody get a number? Sort of raise your hand if you have a number. Oh, good. Okay. So how many out there are flaming utilitarians? That means that you got a +7, a +6, or +5. No? How about ice cold deontologist? That means you got negative numbers. -5, -6, -7. Oh, we got, oh, good. We have some deontologists. Oh, good. So what this means is that not that you're oh wait, any mugwumps out there? Any mugwumps? Oh, you got to be a mugwump. Yeah, I knew you were a mugwump. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that means you're kind of right in the middle. So if you remember, or maybe you don't need to remember, is that utilitarians were um, from the school of thought that everything is for the best for the group, and even if there are a few that may suffer, whatever is the best for the most. And that was mostly John Stuart Mill and several other philosophers who are proponents of utilitarianism. So it's what's best for the group. The deontologist is more along the lines of Immanuel Kant, where it's very rule driven, very black and white. If you have a stop sign, you come to a stop sign, you stop completely, and then you proceed, that kind of thing. So what this does is gives you a little bit of insight into what kind of person you are. In other words, what you find acceptable as either morally or ethically. That if there's something that's good for the bigger whole, then it may be acceptable if some people suffer. If it's rule driven, where you can do this or you can't do this, that's not allowed, this is allowed, then you're more of a deontologist. And all that means is that you need to spend time, you need to think about that when you're making decisions and doing research. That that sort of bias that you come with already affects you on how you make decisions. There's an article that we sent around called "Stupidity in Science," and it's just one page. And the point of that is I think it's a microbiology journal, and it talks about this guy who runs into a former classmate of his, who had dropped out of graduate school, and he said, "Well, why did you drop out of graduate school?" And she said, "I couldn't stand the fact that I didn't know the answer. I I couldn't stand the fact that I was stupid going into a project. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. So she became a lawyer instead. You can take that as you will. Uh, and just to understand that as a scientist, there's some things that as a person and your own makeup that you can accept or not accept. Whether you're a utilitarian or deontologist, a mugwump, or someone that has to know the answer. You have to know what the outcomes can be before you start it. You can be those kinds of people and do science. You just have to be aware that that influences you and either adds to your frustration sometimes. Um, so that's kind of the point of the quiz. That's kind of the point of stupidity in science and understanding that those things influence you. The one of the point of these trainings is that we've had to deal with a lot or a number of issues having to do with research misconduct. This is an article out of the Scientist from 2012 that talks about misconduct being on the rise. It talks about retractions of scientific studies because of plagiarism, falsification, and as it says in the subtitle, instances of researchers behaving badly. Now, this is the company that put this out is actually a company that markets anti-plagiarism software. UNM has purchased Authenticate and Turnitin.com. I'm not sure about New Mexico Tech. So there was an issue after this came out that maybe there's a conflict of interest with this company reporting misconducts on the rise. Because why? Why would that be a conflict of interest?
So they sell the software to fight the crime or fight the misconduct.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, they say, hey, here's a problem, and you know what? We got something that can help you fix that problem. So, regardless of that issue, it is pretty well documented that the issues of misconduct are not going away anytime soon, and we'll talk more about that. Here's another instance that we should take note of at the University of Wisconsin. Here's a postdoc who was working in a lab, a fish biologist, who was canned for whistleblowing. At least that's the title there, and that's the idea. And if you just read these couple of paragraphs, it says the University of Wisconsin postdoc was forced to resign after alleging that his advisor had engaged in scientific misconduct. Oh, I got my little. Oh, there's my little pointer. Okay, here it is. Aaron Taylor was the postdoc, and he voiced doubts about an image that was published in a journal called Development by his advisor, Greenblatt. Taylor was a co-author on the paper, and later he accused his advisor of pressuring him to publish the data or publish those data that he considered unreliable and subsequently aired his concerns to NIH. Now, this NIH Office of Research Integrity is a federal office that does provide oversight for research misconduct, and we'll talk more about those guys later. So in November, the department chair, Jeffrey Harden, told the postdoc, Taylor, that he could resign, be fired, or drop the misconduct issues, in quotes, according to a conversation Taylor recorded and shared with the journal Nature. Taylor, again, the postdoc, resigned and has begun work at a new institution. Now, these last two sentences are kind of the important things about whistleblowing. Uh, Reprisal against whistleblowers is banned by U.S. federal policy on research misconduct. I might add that the state of New Mexico, a law that Governor Richardson signed into law shortly before leaving office, was giving whistleblower protections to New Mexico state employees. And then also UNM, for instance, has a whistleblower policy. I'm sure New Mexico Tech does as well. Hardin, this is the department chairman again, maintains that the postdoc was not retaliated against for blowing the whistle on his advisor, but was let go because of, quote, serious personnel issues. Greenblatt, that's the mentor, the advisor, is not being investigated by either the university or by the Office of Research Integrity. So what do you think are some of the issues in this brief little example? You think, give you three scenarios. I mean, Hardin, the department chair, didn't want to deal with it. Taylor had maybe just didn't like his advisor and decided to just make his life miserable. What do you think?
It's hard to tell with these sorts of situations unless you have, audio or video recordings or, other people to verify the situation. Has anybody reproduced any of the results from the previous advisory?
For the 2009 paper of Greenblatt, that's a good question. So I mean that's the beauty of examples, and especially these kinds of case studies where we don't have, well, one, we don't have enough information to really come to a complete conclusion, but it raises all sorts of discussion points, and you raised one, evidence. That's one of the number one things that if you see something that you don't think is right, you need to have hard evidence that it's not right. Just thinking or having an idea that it's unreliable, because as it says here, he considered unreliable and subsequently aired his concerns. Well, what made it seem unreliable? I mean, did he have a photo or a figure that was one way at one point and had been altered in another point for the final publication? So that's one of the issues. It could have been a personality problem between some people that are involved here. The other important thing is that down here, the institution decided not to go forth with any kind of investigation. So the university didn't investigate it. Now, there's an obligation by any university to investigate if a case is brought to them, a case of whistleblowing. They're obligated to kick in a procedure that all universities have in place to investigate. So it's interesting that it didn't go forth. Um, and finally, here's something out of the Chronicle of Higher Education about plagiarism on grant proposals. This is from December of 2012. That seemingly a common thing, but the thing to know here is that any grant proposal and just about any manuscript now that goes to publication is reviewed for plagiarism. They are put through plagiarism checkers, as well as figures. Figures are put through some sort of a checker to look for enhancements or changes that may not be legitimate. Now, what happens when somebody finds this is a whole nother issue, and we talk about it in a lot more detail when we do the full-blown classes. Uh, the Office of Research Integrity, up here again, does publish a series every year, or it's sort of an ongoing thing, of individuals that have been found guilty of research misconduct. What do you notice? Oh, yeah, are we doing a quiz here? We might be doing a quiz here. Yeah, I think we are. Here's a poll. What do you notice about that slide that wasn't there very long? um, and there's a couple of choices. The numbers. We'll put that slide back up here in a sec. The various names. Did you notice the gopher? No? Anybody here? No? Okay. This is misconduct like doing science that does not directly benefit man. I forgot what that means. Or are they all in blue? Let's go back to the slide here. Since we don't have a lot of people to respond to the polls. Thanks, Felipe. Whoop. There we go. So given some of those options, what do you notice from these 3 years of lists, 2011, 12, and 13? Anybody notice the gopher? Get it? That's not what you're really supposed to notice.
Are they all men?
That's one thing.
Awesome, John.
So I heard men. What was the other one? Mostly what?
And mostly men. There's a Jennifer.
That-
Mostly.
Well, they're not mostly men. Maybe that year was a bad year for men. Um, and you can't always tell. But one of the things that strikes me anyway is the few number of people. So we're doing all this effort in training all new scientists coming along uh, that at least get federal funding. We're going to all this effort for what, 20 people a year? Think that's right? You think that? Uh, well, maybe it's a little deeper than that. You can, by the way, these are all live links. You could click on any of these. Like you can go to Mark Hauser here. Oh, I hesitate to do this, otherwise it'll probably blow up the Adobe Connect. But you can click on Mark Hauser, who was at Harvard uh, and was found guilty on 8 instances of research misconduct for doing some work with uh, primate recognition. And you could read all his whole story. You know how he got turned in and what he did and what he's doing now, for that matter, which isn't very exciting. Anyway, another part of this is that we hear this all the time. I mean, I get this on my phone. You know, CNN breaking news, blah 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 blah. And here's a case of Wakefield who retracted a study which linked the MMR vaccine to autism. Why? I guess in your mind, why is misconduct bad? Why is a retraction like this, for instance? Why is that something that we really need to care about? What's that?
It lowers the credibility.
Credibility,
Science community.
right. I mean, for me personally, I had to take my children. My wife doesn't believe in well, I shouldn't say she doesn't believe. She doesn't like to watch her kids get in pain, so I have to take the kids to get their shots all the time. And when this was out originally, she didn't want the children to get autism, right? Because of the scientific study that said you would get autism if you did this MMR vaccine. So I had to take my daughter in 3 different times, once to get mumps, once to get measles, once to get rubella, and each time, it was more painful. Each time I had to buy a bigger toy. It affected me personally. But here's more importantly than what I have to do with my kids is long-lasting damage. So not only were the people that were in the study, their medical histories were misrepresented. There was a false impression that there was a link. Um, this one, about 6 down here, it diverted efforts to understand the real causes of autism. So all this money is being spent on trying to solve a problem, a medical problem, and somebody says, "Oh, I got a solution. I've found the answer." And in reality, they didn't. It was faked, and it diverts the efforts to really understand, in this case, the real causes of autism. You still have people, though, I'm sure you are aware of and heard in the news, that still believe that MMR is linked to autism. Um, but this is huge. Panicked parents decline to get a vaccine that prevents measles, mumps, and rubella. You may have heard just last fall that there was an outbreak of 12 cases of measles or mumps, and they're all linked to a megachurch in somewhere in Central Texas that said that I guess part of their teachings was not to get vaccinated because it either didn't do any good or it was I don't know the reason. But when 20 odd members of their parish came down with measles and mumps, a couple weeks later, by golly, they had vaccinations lined up for all their parishioners, and by golly, they pretty quickly decided that vaccinations was a good thing. And you can look that up, the details of that, but it is. I think it's true that if you get some misrepresented information out there, about some scientific outcome, it can not only affect people personally, but it can affect public health. Um, and there's also measles on the numbers of cases of measles on the rise in Britain and the U.S., where both these things were taken. But lastly, what's interesting is the co-authors took their names off after they'd learned that Wakefield had hired a law firm that intended to sue vaccine manufacturers. So he really knew that this was made up, and he was trying to make a bunch of money off it. And not only is it a serious conflict of interest, it's a real moral lapse in lots of ways. So research misconduct is a big deal, and whether it's 15 or 20 cases or thousands of cases of misconduct, it can have some pretty serious outcomes. What is misconduct? This is the Code of Federal Regulations. It really only has to do with these three words: fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism. Um, if it's not those things, it's not doesn't fall under the category federal category of research misconduct. But fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism are really big deals, and plagiarism in particular is the number one. It's pretty serious overall uh, behavior that's been going on for some time. When this is Authenticate, again, that company that sells the software. But what's interesting is that every time that there's a case, it's about $500,000 to investigate it. So any institution that has to look into, oh, you got your hand up, I'm sorry. Go for it.
I was wondering how, when we get lots of data points, sometimes you interpolate or extrapolate data to find out, general trend. Is that sort of a gray area for falsification or fabrication of data?
Well, I mean, the issue there, of course, is that you're following sort of accepted methods of your discipline, and that you've said in your methods, this is what I'm doing. I've got this point and that point, and I'm drawing a line between the two. You be the judge, other scientist, reader, person out there, as to whether I'm doing this correctly. So if it's all spelled out what you're doing, and I would say considered acceptable within the discipline, then no. So I mean, if it's something that's done in the discipline, it could be judged by the larger body, then it's good. That's part of peer review, and we'll talk about that briefly here in a minute. That was a good question, though. Okay, so again, these investigations are expensive, but also this number here that Authenticate produced talks about over 70,000 patients that were treated by 851 retracted studies. And you may know or hear more about this. In fact, I have a slide about retracted studies and reproducibility, and oh, here it is. This came out recently, April 8th, April 6th, 2014, in the Scientist, talking about seeing increasing numbers of retractions of journal articles, and talks about higher rates of misconduct, and they use the word fraud. Fraud is more of a legal term, which isn't usually, we don't usually use it too much in talking about research ethics. But the American Association of Cancer Research had a meeting in San Diego just last April to discuss why these problems are coming up and how to fix them. And here's a quote by one of the members there. It says, a project was undertaken by Amgen researchers to reproduce the results of more than 50 published studies. The vast majority were that's not, is that irreproducible? Not able, they weren't able to do it again. Even by the original researchers who had done the work. That shocked me, explained a member in attendance. So can you imagine trying to reproduce 50 medical studies and not being able to do it? Even the people that did it originally couldn't reproduce their own work. That's a bit alarming, I think. And that meeting went on to talk about, in addition to being able to reproduce unable to reproduce the majority of published experiments. They talked about commonly used lines were mislabeled, lack of blind or controls. They use the word unvalidated, but it should be invalidated. Reagents, inappropriate statistical tests. So these things aren't misconduct one at a time. Inappropriate statistical tests is not misconduct. But it is bad science. Um, and even common in top tier publications. And so these are some of the problems. They did come up or suggest possibly some solutions, including um, the some of the problems are encouraged by pressure from journals. They want nicely packaged stories so they can sell journals. I mean, journals are still trying to keep their circulation up. And then there's a professional culture that emphasizes high impact publication. So, what's the next big thing? That's what people want to know about. So some of the solutions that they were coming up with, we're talking about reagents and cell lines that could have they said a Wikipedia-like reporting to record and verify properties. And then the punishment, this is something interesting. These are the peers, right? The people talking about their own folks of being found guilty of misconduct is relatively light. For those found guilty, you should be out of science. That's pretty quick. That's pretty harsh. We can pull up the paper by Dave Resnick. The point is that we're talking about three categories of behaviors. We're talking about ideal, the ideal, everything. Science is the scientific method is followed to the letter, versus someone that's intentionally trying to manipulate or alter their information. What we're really the issue that this training and trainings like this are trying to get at is that middle ground, those questionable research practices that are uh, maybe common. Uh, I don't know. So this paper is 4 or 5 pages by Dave Resnick. Is what is ethics in research and why it's important. And I would urge you all to just peruse it. Peruse it means read it carefully and look through it. And the thing I like about it is 2 or 3 things. One is the definitions here. So if you look here, this definition of integrity, it says, keep your promises and agreements, act with sincerity, strive for consistency of thought and action. I mean, that's a nice, succinct definition of what integrity is. Likewise, if you look at, I don't know, animal care, show proper respect and care for animals when using them in research. Don't conduct unnecessarily or poorly designed animal experiments. That's IACUC in a nutshell. What I wanted to point out here, though, is just below case 2. He talks about there are many other activities that the government does not define as misconduct, but which are still regarded by most researchers as unethical. These are called other deviations or what I was calling questionable research practices. And let's just look at a few of these bullets. Let's see. Oh, here's one. I like this one, about 10 down. Giving the same research project to 2 graduate students in order to see who can do it the fastest. That's why is that not a good practice? Other than, I don't know. Why do you think that's not a good idea?
Well, when you rush things, you have a tendency to make more mistakes and
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah,
shortcuts.
that's good.
Twice for the same reason.
Yeah, and also it's a waste of money. Wait, I'm sorry. One more thing.
Yeah, I was going to say you could put one of those graduate students to better use by having them take more data samples or something rather than work on a redundant paper or
Right. I mean, you've hired these 2 different people to do work. Why waste in an important sense? Why waste good money? I mean, you hired them to do something, and they should be able to do it on their own. failing to keep good research records, failing to maintain research data for a reasonable period of time. What's a reasonable period of time to maintain your research data? How long should you keep your data when you're at, say,
Well, data's essentially free nowadays. I don't know why you would want to keep it for forever.
it's free? What do you
Free for
mean?
storage. Like,
Oh,
you don't have to have a massive archive. We can put a bajillion papers into a disk drive and keep that just on a desk somewhere.
oh, okay, I got you. I got you. So yeah, so storage media is almost infinite these days and fairly inexpensive, right? Well, the rule is for that just to most institutions have some sort of data retention policy, and just a rule of thumb is about 5 years after the end of your project, either meaning the end of the funding or that's probably a good definition. After the end of the funding, you should hold on to data. As you know, in reality, most people don't think to look at their watch and go, okay, there's 5 years. I'm going to go now and purge those data. In reality, most people just kind of forget about it, like you're saying, and keep it in storage. But the importance of holding on to data is that you can go back and review what was done over some period of time. Okay. Anyway, some of the other things: stealing supplies, books, or data, sabotaging someone's work, racist epithets, things like that. So these are considered misconduct, although they're not acceptable. So I find to have the list here is actually fairly useful in this article. So again, I would encourage you to go back and read this, and it's really short. Okay, we'll go back to the slides. Why is that there? Oh, that's there because I didn't take the other one out. I just wanted to do this one. That was the whistleblowing article I had up earlier about the postdoc Jeff Harden or Taylor. I just want to give you a little more details about what you can do for whistleblowing, and I think I already mentioned have documentation. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to remember my own sequence here. Have documentation. Ask somebody objective if they also see the same issues. In other words, um, that postdoc Taylor could have found somebody else in the lab and said, does this look the same to you or not? Make your claim to the correct authority, follow the procedure, and allow the process to work. So these are all issues about whistleblowing. So what we're going to do from this point on out is go through the just one slide each, pretty much, what all the um, areas of the responsible conduct of research are. And why we have to do this has to do with NSF and NIH around 2010. It was January 2010 that regulations went into place that anybody that's supported by federal dollars, in particular NSF and NIH, and now the USDA's NIFA, is required to go through the responsible conduct of research training. Many institutions are making that a requirement of anybody receiving funding or any graduate student. And let me give you some more details about that. This table talks about who must participate, how often, the format, the topics, and things. So if you're NSF, they require undergraduates, graduate students, postdoc researchers who receive NSF support to do this training. Undergraduates can have a little bit, I would say, RCR light, if you will. Graduate students and postdocs, we're asking that at UNM anyway, is that they complete a minimum of 8 hours of some sort of face-to-face content. Why, and the same with NSF, they like the face-to-face format. Why would face-to-face, and I guess we could call this face-to-face as well, even though it's kind of flat face. Why not just go online and do some learning module and move on?
It's easy to just click through a learning module and not get any content out of it.
You mean you can cheat on your ethics test? You can just go right to the end and take the assessment and guess and be done with it?
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, that's exactly why they have that. Yeah, that's exactly why. And if you do human subjects research, that's been one of the big criticisms for there's a CITI training that researchers have to go on and pass before they can do any sorts of research with human subjects. And that's been one of the criticisms. They just go right to the test at the end of the module. Otherwise, it takes, literally, I just did it recently, it takes 4 hours to go through online, to go through every module and to finish your certification. So these agencies recognize that, and I think there's a lot more value in the exchange. In other words, I know more about what your situations are, and you can ask questions, and like the questions you've asked already, and we can try and resolve things. So that's one of their ideas. At UNM anyway, we do the face-to-face, and you end up with a certificate. Oh, much like this one. I'll make sure you all look at that. Ooh, suitable for framing. Look at that, huh? And I think I did it fast enough so you can't read the name. I didn't violate anybody's confidentiality. But other issues is that an institution, UNM, needs to have what they call an institutional RCR plan, document and certify. So we keep track of your names and provide you with a certificate. And we do some standard offerings. Again, we've tried to be very flexible and not just have one module fits all, because obviously undergrads don't need as much detail because maybe they're not doing that kind of work yet, but will. These are the content areas, and if you I've talked about a lot of them already. I mean, conflicts of interest, use of humans and other animals in research, authorship and publication, data acquisition, reproducibility, peer review, mentorship, misconduct, whistleblower, financial management. Financial management and data reproducibility are two new areas that we're going to put into place starting this fall. But also, the scientist as a responsible member of society is a big deal. Why would NSF or NIH care that or you think about yourself as having some responsibility to society, or be aware even of other individuals that have taken action as a responsible member of society? Why do you think that matters? Why would they care? Any examples you can think of?
Well, the federal money comes from the government, and the government is responsible for the policies and practices of the nation. So if you get bad data, you're going to get bad output.
That's good. How about another example? One that's in this book that you have a free PDF version of, talks about, this is on being a scientist. It's put out by the National Academies, and it's the 63-page PDF, or yeah, that that Mike was saying. I'm not making copies of that, which I actually don't blame him. in there that it talks, there's an example about Agent Orange. There was a botanist in the 1940s who was working on his thesis, finished his degree, Caltech, I think, and filed the thesis up on the shelf in the library. Well, behold, the Army found it and said, "Oh wow, it says here in this research project that if we increase this chemical, it'll defoliate. Maybe we can use this in a military situation." So sure enough, it became Agent Orange, which was used heavily in Vietnam. Um, when the scientists found out that the Army had pulled his information and was using it in a way that he didn't feel was socially responsible, he had enough connections to uh, through a friend talk to or get word to Henry Kissinger, who was Secretary of State at the time to Nixon, um, to get them to stop spraying Agent Orange. And there was also, I mean, he used his society of biochemists or whatever group he was with to uh, submit some proclamations. Anyway, he worked through his own action to pretty much single-handedly stop the use of Agent Orange in Vietnam, um, which is a big deal. It to this day, it's a big deal. In fact, they're still removing Agent Orange from uh, parts of Vietnam where it was stored, and the way they have to remove it is they have to dig down into the soil, remove the soil, heat it up to some gazillion degrees, and then put the soil back. So the remediation for that is significant, as well as the health issues that resulted from people being exposed to Agent Orange. So that's a pretty extreme example, but think about the work that you do and the questions that you ask and how you might have to actually follow what you do. A botanist, right? Why would you think that their work would or his work would um, be questionable in a society? So it's important to be aware of what could happen and to try and follow it up if something happens that you don't want it to. So, I mean, that's kind of an extreme case, but I think it's important as a scientist to not shield yourself or hide away from society in that sense. Let's see. Wow, what's all this? Oh, I just want to make a difference between research ethics and compliance. So if anybody here works with human subjects, there's the IRB that you have to talk to. If you work with animals, there's the IACUC, the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee. Anytime you submit a proposal or a protocol, you have to submit a conflicts of interest statement. Every institution will ask you to do that. If you do some sort of international travel or you work with technology, um, devices in particular, export control is an issue that needs to be addressed. And then, of course, research misconduct. So these are all the compliance aspects of. There's others such as radiation and biohazards and things like that. But as far as ethics are concerned, these are the main offices. If you are doing human subjects, I know that's not a human subject. I realize that. Um, at UNM, we have a IRB office, and there's people that. Oh, that worked. Look at that. There's people that you go to, and I'm sure that that's true at your institution. That there's a person that you would submit protocols to for your IRB. So this is the Office of Institutional Review Board. Likewise, if you're doing work with the other animals, there's the IACUC. UNM has, where'd he go? A veterinarian on board to consult with, as well as the IACUC chair. That's the committee that reviews and approves all research having to do with animals. This is an interesting issue. This came out in Science in December of 2011. just you know, things that we discuss when we do the full blown class about research ethics. This is a woman, a biochemist who became world famous for her studies with chronic fatigue syndrome. I'm just reading the top paragraph. She was arrested and jailed in November of 2011 in Ventura, California on a felony charge of possessing stolen property from a research institute that fired her in September. The property at issue consisted of her own lab notebooks and related data. So the question is, do you own your lab notebook? Is it yours? Anybody here maintain a lab notebook? Or you will? Yeah. Um, do you know whether it's yours, or when you leave tech, do you have to leave the notebook? Or will you be arrested in Ventura, California? What do you think?
I used to work for a large company, and we maintained logs of tool sets going up and coming down and stuff. And we had to sign non-disclosure agreements and knew that anything that was given to us or data that was taken down was not publishable or distributable for 5 years after we left the company.
Wow, that's good. That's good. I mean, it's good that you know, related that experience. um, right, and this is something to think about. If you work for private companies, or you work for like Sandia Labs, or up at Los Alamos at the National Labs, um, there could very well be limitations on what you can do with your data. And if you're, you know, if you're in it for a graduate degree, you're trying to pull a master's or a PhD out of it, and you can't use those data as part of your degree, you should know that early on. And there's been cases where people didn't know that early on, and they weren't able to finish their degree with that work. So most institutions have some sort of policy on data and data sharing and lab notebooks and things like that. At UNM anyway, and most institutions, I think, is that if you're funded, that any materials that are generated or belong to the institution, that all grants are not awarded to a person, they're awarded to the institution. And then the PI is um, the I'm sorry, I'm blanking on words here. The PI is the person that is the caretaker of those data and of the project. And actually, when a manuscript is submitted to a journal, all the copyrights are assigned to the journal, and you don't own that material anymore. The intellectual property of it and all has been transferred to the journal for publication. So there's even an issue of self-plagiarism. If you were to take something that you'd just written and submit it to a journal, and then you would take that paragraph out and stick it in another journal article and submit it to another journal, you might be self-plagiarizing. In other words, you need to rewrite that so that it is unique and uh, not infringing somebody's copyright that you just passed over in publications. We talk about that actually quite a bit of detail in the full sessions. So when it comes to data and publications and even peer review, there's confidentiality, there's copyright issues, there's intellectual property issues that you need to all be aware of before you go forward. And don't be scared of this stuff. I mean, it's easy to just disclose and move on. Here's something about I'll call it the bad or the good. I don't know whether I can put a good or a bad on any of this. This is a fellow who um, faked almost 200 medical studies over 2 decades. This came out in October of 2012. How could you get away with faking for, you know, making stuff up for almost 200 papers? How do you think?
It was really
Well, you start your own journal. So that's one way until it was figured out. That's not good. Here's another one that I'm not sure is good or bad. This is called Publishing's Gender Gap. This is again from October of 2012. And women out there, I want you to feel really good about this, okay? It says here, the percentage of women authors in academic publishing has risen to 30% since 1665. Yay! I'm sorry. So what these folks did is they looked at 2 million academic papers published between 1665 and 2010 by 2.7 million scientists, social scientists, and humanities scholars. And what they found a whole bunch of different biases. Women aren't often first authors. They don't often get the uh, credit for the work that they've been doing. So, like I said, I don't know if this is good or bad or just plain ugly in some ways, but it is true that well, actually, I'll ask you, why do you think um, there's a difference here? Why do you think uh, women are only 30% of the authorships?
Segregation going on.
I'm sorry, a little louder. Okay. Any women have any ideas out there?
A lot of people aren't willing to fund them due to their actual gender and society, fit like in society, due to the time
And
period.
uh-huh. What? Anybody else?
Society has a lot to do about that.
Has a lot to do.
Has still a lot to do about that.
Oh yeah. And one of the issues is women professorial professorships. It's taken a long time for women to, and in some departments, it's got a long ways to go still, um, to be equal numbers of women in departments, and and that's true of minorities and other underrepresented groups. That for a long time in universities, it's not been very diverse, and that obviously would hugely influence, I think, anyway, the amount of papers and publications that get out there. I do think that it's going to be a lot better, a lot sooner than since 1665. This sort of cracked me up that they went back that far, but um, right, there's a lot of ground to gain still. And of course, this is how peer review works. To read the bottom, it says most scientists regarded the new streamlined peer review process as quite an improvement. Um, Peer review is something we talk about quite a bit in the full sessions, and there are three types of peer review that are pretty common. You submit a paper. Paper goes to a journal editor. The editor then farms it out to a couple of reviewers, uh, usually two or three. Um, the reviewers take a couple weeks to a month to read and provide comments back to the editor about the manuscript. The editor then summarizes all those comments and sends it back to the author or authors, and then usually um, there's papers can be accepted with revision from anything from little things to major changes, or just get rejected. Anybody there publish any papers? Raise your hand. Hey, how'd it go?
The peer review process took a while. Like we tried to publish a paper in
January, and we had to do the peer review process for a couple months after that.
When did the paper actually come out from January?
Say that again?
Oh, about how long did it take for the paper to come out from when you originally submitted it in January?
Came out in March, I think.
Oh, that's actually pretty quick. Was it electronic or was it paper?
I believe it was electronic.
Yeah, usually have a little quicker turnaround electronic. But I mean, it's not unusual. It takes a year to publish a paper, even with a fairly quick review turnaround process. So 3-4 months, that's pretty good. um, so more and more on papers that are getting submitted, the way it used to be for many years was the author's identity was known, but the reviewers' identities were unknown, so they were anonymous, and that led to some issues about bias and um, competition, and so someone would see your paper and they go, "Oh, I should have thought of that," and they'll put your paper down on the desk and they'll work away at what you were doing, and they'll try and publish it. Well, that actually is misconduct if you plagiarize somebody's ideas, um, and that can be documented. So a more common system that's becoming more common is a anonymous author and anonymous reviewers, and then just the editor of the journal knows the identities of everybody, and that's becoming more and more common. So that gets away from a lot of the bias and other issues that seem to arise. But there is a confidentiality that's expected when you have papers that are submitted for peer review. You're not supposed to pick it up and do the work and apply it yourself and take credit for it, for instance. So mentorship. Um, I just have one slide here on mentoring, and although I think the agencies again view mentoring as hugely important and central to successful professional training of scientists, um, and we spend quite a bit of time on mentoring as well in the fuller sessions. If you're out there looking for someone for graduate work, here's some positive attributes of a mentor: that they're excited about their work, they're respected by the current people that work in the lab or in their program, they're obviously knowledgeable, they're known, they don't hold grudges, which I think is kind of interesting. Um, they don't blame research failures on others, they're organized, they're fair. What could be a problem with a sort of if you find this perfect, highly thought of, highly sought after mentor, what could be a potential problem with that?
The mentees that are competing for mentorship, they have a benefit to falsifying their records or their background to get under their wing.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. What else could be a problem with sort of highly um, sought after mentors or someone that's extremely popular?
They really have the time for you.
Yeah, that's it. They may not have the time for you, and um, you know, you might need that. You might need that time. So some students are pretty hands off, and you can meet with them once a week or once a month, and off they go. They got their project. They're perfectly able to take care of their progress. Others, frankly, you know, need a little more handholding. They need a lot more guidance, a lot more, um, uh, I guess, organization, if you will. And that goes back to the little quiz we took and that article on stupidity in research, depending on the kind of person you are, make sure that you and your mentor are a good match. So if you're someone that is highly organized and very motivated, and you're hit the ground running, you know exactly what you want to do, well, you might be able to get a mentor that's busier and maybe not as accessible, um, because they're doing the same thing. I mean, they're hitting the ground running. On the other hand, if you need more time, you need to think through things. You need a little bit more of a sounding board. Then make sure you find a mentor that can do that for you. That'll be huge to your success. Although I did know a faculty member that he didn't think he was successful until his PhD student hated him. He thought, I haven't done a good job until they hate me so much they just want to get out of here. They want to graduate and they want to get out there in the world and just prove to me how wrong I am. He's retired, so that's okay. Anyhow, so mentorship is a big deal. To do these trainings, and obviously we're doing a version of it right now, for let's see, I lost my little pointer, to get the RCR training, and doing this through Adobe Connect. If you end up in another institution at some point, I'm sure they'll have a program. Hopefully they'll have a program that's somewhat similar. I mean, there's 8-week courses. Look for symposium and conferences and those sorts of things. By the way, this training, as far as I'm concerned, is good for 4 years. As far as I should say UNM's concerned, and you'll get a certificate from us, and you could present that when you go on, within the next 4 years, and say, I've already got my RCR training, and I don't need it again for a while. Hopefully they'll honor this anyway. Another, I think we're going to try to do this, right, Felipe? Is we're going to try and look at the lab, which is his online module that is prepared by the Office of Research Integrity, and we might go through that for just a little bit. Let me see what else I got. Hold on a sec here. What, Felipe?
If they could play it on their side, because if we play it on ours, they won't be able to listen to the audio.
Oh, okay. So we won't do that right now, but maybe in a little bit to finish out the second hour, we can go through that lab module. It's pretty entertaining, I should say. The last couple of points here actually is something called Nip It in the Bud, and it's an article that was in Nature a couple years ago. And what this is, in the bud, all right? And here's Jane. There's Jane right here. And she's noticed that Bob, there's Bob, seemed to be deleting data. His little finger down here on the delete button, that didn't fit. There's Jane. What do you think Jane does? Well, Jane decided to gently intervene. And she says, Bob, you dope, I think some data may have been left out of our analysis. Here he is. He's choking on his coffee as she's saying that. Oh gosh. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you think about that? Do you think that you could, if you notice somebody maybe manipulating, and you saw them doing something that you didn't think was right, could you go over to them and question what they're doing? That's a question for you guys.
Well, yeah, because it might save you as well of being possibly a co-author or some part of the research.
Yeah. Your name's on it too, and what would be a problem with that? Or would there be a problem? You just have no problem. Just say, hey, buddy.
problem is the research, the results of the research that are going to be biased
The say that last part I heard.
for reputation. The research itself, the research itself
Oh yeah,
is
yeah,
going
yeah.
to be biased, and even more important that your own responsibility.
Right. And but would you feel comfortable in every situation to say something? Yes. Okay. No.
Wasn't that part of the ethics? It might not always be the most comfortable thing, but
Ah,
it's the right
ah.
thing.
I like you guys. That's great. Um, Unfortunately, some people don't feel that way. There could be a power differential. So that a person that you're about to say is not doing something right is the person that pays your paycheck, or is the person that gives you your grade, or is the person that will sign off on your project, or something like that. Um, People may not always feel comfortable to say something. Uh, what else? There could be another problem. I expect too. Classes. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe what you're observing is legitimate. So maybe Bob there was deleting those data to clean up some sort of output for some sort of meta-analysis of something, and all that process has been outlined in their protocol or in their manuscript. But then again, if you say something that and they tell you that, it's like, oh, okay, all right, that's why. Okay, well, let's see what some other people think. Um, there's two pies here. This one's getting involved, and this one's feelings after getting involved. If you look at the getting involved one, uh, about 53% intervened. About a third never intervened, and 16 didn't see anything, I guess. I don't know. So a little more than half people intervened. So of those half that intervened, about 2/3 were either neither dissatisfied nor, I mean, they're either satisfied, but not dissatisfied. And about a third were either dissatisfied or extremely dissatisfied with the outcome. So again, about half the people intervened, and about 2/3 of those were okay with what happened. Um, so I mean, there was some sort of hesitation, but for the most part, the outcomes were positive. The things, the catalog of wrongs. Um, these first are all actual misconduct. So things that they observe, fabrication or falsification or plagiarism, those are all actual instances of misconduct. The rest of the issues, carelessness, some bias, dishonesty, such as misuse of grant funds. I should actually read into it a little more to see what that one was about. But and over 600 incidents, so a pretty good data set of people that went and looked at um, what was going on in the lab and intervened. So I guess the bottom line here is that if you feel in this group that you can get involved, that you can say something that, and maybe the risk doesn't feel very great, or it's acceptable to you, then if you do say something, there's probably a pretty good chance that, well, at least um, 2/3 of the time, it'll work out. And the other part that's important here is that you're stopping, like some of you mentioned, something bad happening that you could be associated with, whether it's your name's on the paper or on the project or something like that. So I thought that was actually a pretty interesting result. So even though this says how do we know what to do as a graduate student, you can take it to heart as well. Is that you're not alone. There's a bunch of people that are in your lab or working around you, and you can, I think, take some trust them with some of your questions and your sort of musings about what's going on. I guess nothing else really here to emphasize except that if you are working with humans or other animals in research, make sure you get an approval before you start. And that means even working in somebody else's lab, make sure you're on those protocols and that you're approved to work on those projects. Okay, what else? What else is here? Let's see. Oh, let's see. Yeah, you know all that. Oh, emerging issues. So, what are some emerging issues in your area? Do you think there's a list of some things here, but in your potential research or your projects that you're working on, what are some issues that you think could have some ethical depth to them that um, is it not commonly known or maybe emerging? And educate me.
Using lab materials that were paid for with grant money to do projects, personal projects that weren't outlined in your grant proposal.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about that. I was thinking you're going to talk about nanobots, but okay.
Oh, specific to my statement? Is that what you were
Oh,
wanting more?
well, yeah, just yeah, I don't want you to get anybody in trouble. That's more important at this point. But I guess I'm thinking in your own discipline or disciplines, are there any issues that are emerging that you think would have some ethical dimensions that we haven't thought about? For instance, um, doing brain scans. We have the Mind Institute up here, and scientists are able to look at these highly detailed brain scans, and at least some of them say that they can predict behaviors based on the morphology of what they see in the brain. This person's going to be a Nobel Prize winner. This one's going to steal cars for a living. I mean, they can actually claim to understand someone's future behavior. That's sort of an emerging issue that I think you could talk about for a while to try and understand what some of the implications may be at some point. I just trying to see what you might have in your own field. But I like that one about the materials left over. That's interesting. Okay. Um, oh, big data. Get it? There's big data. Data. He's big. He's anyway. Um, Big data. That's somewhat of an emerging issue. I've been learning about actually is um, the whole idea of collecting either phone records or business transactions or geospatial or geocoding information on a huge scale and using those data for a number of things. Maybe not research, maybe marketing, maybe a number of other things. And it's um, pretty interesting that society in general hasn't really keyed in on this, that uh, our whole concept of privacy and confidentiality is changing. Whether you like to tweet or you know you you like to Snapchat or whatever, um, people are watching you and and marketing to you, and to me that's a very interesting issue that's coming around. Okay, so you guys don't have anything emerging. You're just kind of stealing everybody's data.
I mean, I can have an example.
Like what?
Um, a while ago, I worked with somebody that was doing with endangered species here in Mexico.
Mhm.
And we went to a particular site where there was this man's farm, and that's what he lived off of. And it's one of those things where if you found that frog there and it was endangered, you have to report it, and you have to basically it's gonna ruin him, and he wouldn't be able to farm there. It would affect his life, and it's one of those things that if we found frogs there, we had to report it, and we had to tell him and the proper procedures that he had to take. But one of those things like you want to try to help, but at the same time, it's not always just black and white. It's like a gray area.
Yeah, that's a great example. I mean, that really is a moral dilemma, and um, you have a person's livelihood depending on their current practices, and then you find something that just knocks the pins out from under them. But uh, again, that goes back to that utilitarian deontology thing. Is that um, is it best? And I have no solution for what you said, but is it best to proceed for the common good? And in this sense, frog habitat has been determined to be the common good, and this individual's uh, sacrifice that's an acceptable cost. That would be again a utilitarian view. Um, the other part of that is, do you, I don't want to say lie or cheat, but do you just turn your head the other way and think about what the cost of that would be? So yeah, actually these are the kind of discussions we have all the time, um, and how what the outcomes are definitely not black and white. And I'm obviously not going to give you any kind of answer, but um, there are things to consider when you're trying to make that decision. That's a great example. That's a hard one. Okay, is that it? Oh, we do have a Twitter. That's right. We have a Twitter account. You can tweet us. AIR stands for the Academic Integrity and Research Ethics, and so we monitor that and we send out tweets all the time. Okay, that's what we covered pretty much. It's just about 10:30. Uh, I think it would be worthwhile to set up the lab and work through that. And as Felipe suggested, um, should probably run it locally down there through the Office of Research Integrity site. Do you need the link?
Yeah, Bill, probably will. Not familiar with how the lab will work.
Um, I'm sorry, say that last part again.
So how does the lab work? How's that
Oh,
going to work through the link?
so
Sorry.
yeah. So I'm just getting you the link here. It is through the Health and Human Services, and the way it works is simply, hold on a sec here. I'm putting it in. Oh, Felipe, you're so good. Don't tell him I said that. There, I'm going to do it too. Ha, ha. He beat me though. Anyway, there's the link. And if you pull that up, let me know when you get it pulled up. You just go play full version.
So is it this one here? HA?
They're the same thing.
Yeah, they're both the same.
Okay, we've got a playful version.
Play full version, yeah. And let's see what happens.
Oh, it's loading, that's good.
Yeah, that's good. And I've got to simultaneously run it. Well, it won't be simultaneously when you start it, but it starts off very dramatically. This guy's bum, and the music is very dramatic, lots of big drums, and talks about, oh, it's been a bad day, and blah blah blah. And what you'll do, well, it'll tell you. You'll select one of 4 characters. Hey, you got it, I think. There it is.
Excuse me, Mr. Ross. Tom Williams, Channel 8 News. Okay. Mr. Ross, researchers from another university are questioning some of the recent high-profile findings from one of your labs. Do you have any?
No, I'm sorry, I can't. We'll have to direct these questions to our general counsel.
But Mr. Ross.
Sorry, I haven't been a scientist from a lab decided to go public with suspicions that some very celebrated research from our university had been falsified.
The research that it was hoped might lead to breakthroughs in the treatment of diabetes might not be all it first appeared to be. All the way is half the story.
We don't hear much about the world of test tubes and lab rats until there's a major breakthrough with major public health implications. Add federal dollars and accusations of fraud to the equation, and you have a potentially explosive story.
It's very interesting. My lab's been doing very similar work.
It blew up pretty quickly.
A preliminary assessment indicates there are grounds for suspicion. And looking into all the research with which this individual is involved. But we decided that further investigation is required to determine whether research misconduct has occurred.
It turned out badly.
9 months after allegations of research misconduct, a young scientist here who seemed to have a bright future ahead of him has finally admitted to falsifying his research.
The investigation turned up multiple instances of research misconduct by this individual over the course of a couple of years. Along the way, there were people in the lab who had questions but didn't speak up. There were people who had responsibility for oversight who didn't properly exercise that responsibility. There were people who knew what was right, didn't do the right thing.
Is it true the McCrary family is withdrawing their commitment to establish a $30 million research endowment for your university?
Well, yes. As you know, they made that announcement today. It just turned into the proverbial perfect storm.
After findings of professional misconduct and with the mounting pressure of widespread bad publicity and more than happy donors threatening to pull their funding, principal investigator from this troubled lab who had been placed on probation has finally been dismissed.
The guy was let go, his lab was shut down. Postdocs, grad students, lab techs, all scrambling to find a new place to continue their work. Many while dealing with the stigma that comes from a tainted lab. But you know what? It didn't really happen. Oh, I mean it did. But it didn't. Because with this program, unlike real life, you get to go back in time. You can become a grad student, a postdoc, a PI, or a research integrity officer. You get a chance to enter an alternate reality as any of these characters. Walk in their shoes, experience their lives, and practice making the choices that will advance the integrity in research. This outcome can be avoided. It's up to you to figure out how.
Welcome to the lab. In this program, you have the opportunity to become 4 distinct characters and deal with issues of ethical conduct of research from a variety of perspectives. A tutorial for each character also provides the chance to examine the process of ethical decision-making. Click Next or press the right arrow key to continue.
The lower right.
You see it?
There we go.
Main menu. The lab. Avoiding research misconduct. You may 1. Play Beth Ridgely. Research Integrity Officer. 2, play Kim Park, grad student. 3, play Dr. Aaron Hutchins, Principal Investigator. 4, play Hardik Rapp, postdoc. 5, go to the Ethical Decision-Making tutorials. 6, go to the intro video. 7, go to the accessibility instructions. 8, go to the acknowledgements page. 9, go to the legal disclaimers page.
Press 0 to your operator.
Where should I go?
Right, I know, right. So you can, most people like to choose the Kim Park graduate student route. The administrator's kind of, I don't know, she's kind of boring. The PI is entertaining. He's got all sorts of things going on. And then Hardik, the postdoc, he's also somewhat entertaining. But I would click on Kim Park, I think.
I'll be naming, please.
I'll have a Guinness, please.
And I'll have White Russian.
Russian? When did you start drinking that?
Seriously, dude, who drinks a White Russian?
Listen, this unchecked aggression will not stand.
I don't know about that one, Steve.
This is you, Kim Park. You're 25 today and a third-year graduate student. You're almost done with all of your coursework, have already co-authored 2 journal articles, and are way ahead of schedule to receive your PhD. Steve here is probably your closest friend from your lab. He's a lot of fun, even if he does like to gossip a little and keep things stirred up. And Hardik is one of your lab's postdocs. He's another friend too, but he's also someone you and Steve look up to. Hopefully, in the next year or 2, you'll be a postdoc in a lab doing important work like he is.
So, to our friend Kim Park on her birthday, many happy returns of the day and a good year to come.
Wow, can we go ahead and share?
Oh, you know what? Get him a slice of TV. Or a cup of coffee.
Shut up. Excuse me.
Later,
Sorry about that, guys. My wife.
When she expecting to drop?
3 months.
I must be excited.
Yeah, excited, anxious, a little scared.
No problem. She goes tomorrow.
It's your turn to present at the weekly meeting. I almost forgot.
She's nervous.
I'm not nervous.
She gets nervous every time she has to present.
I didn't know that.
I do not get nervous. Okay, maybe a little bit. Look, it's hard enough to explain that most of your experiments aren't going anywhere, but then to have to deal with Greg and his questions.
Greg's the other postdoc in your lab.
He's just being inquisitive. He asks everyone questions, including me. He doesn't mean any harm.
I know. He's a great guy. And he is always willing to help.
Yes, we all like Greg, and we all know that you like him more than most.
Your friends know that you and Greg had a brief fling, and that it's still a sensitive topic for you.
But still, Hardik, let me ask you, why is it that Greg is the only one Aaron allows to ask questions at the weekly meetings?
It's not. Anyone can ask questions, just no one does.
Okay, still, there are Greg rules.
The Greg rules.
Come on, Hardik. You know that Aaron has different standards for Greg.
Well, if that's true, it's really not Greg's fault, is it? It's probably just because Greg is dealing with Aaron since he was a grad student. We've been through a lot together.
Anyway, I don't mind the questions. I just really want to impress him just months before I leave here. Well, why are we talking about this? It is my birthday. We should not be talking about this.
What should we be talking about?
How young I am.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could easily pass it what? 24?
24 and a half.
You guys suck. You two do know that you're fine all night, right? Okay.
And the next day,
Over here.
Excuse me, Kim, I have a question. Something here doesn't quite make sense.
It's a lot of things.
life status, talented and promising. You're on your way to earning your PhD early and then on to a successful career as a scientist. Click next or press the right arrow key to continue.
Okay. So pretty soon you'll be able to make some decisions other than just pressing the arrow key.
Monday mornings. Gotta love them.
Hey, Kim, an article Aaron and I submitted was accepted. These are the proofs of the final copy. I'm listing you as a co.
What do you mean?
I used some data from your rotation project.
Oh, like 3 years ago?
Yep.
Hold on, shouldn't we have asked you if it was okay to use your data? And why is he just now showing you a draft of paper?
I know, I should have asked you first. And seeing a draft before the date would have been nice, right? I'm sorry, it was just an oversight. Can you ever forgive me, sweetheart?
I suppose.
I need you to sign this. It has to go out today.
You know, technically, you should read the proofs before you sign, but you just want to enjoy your coffee alone. What do you want to do? 1, tell him you need to read it. 2, just sign.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Read it.
Show your hands. Raise your hands. Take a vote. You want to read it?
Susie's like, oh, he doesn't really like me. Yeah, read it.
All right, so I click on that, Bill?
Yeah, whispering sweet nothing.
Click just sign.
I'm just gonna sign.
Uh-oh.
Read it first.
It needs to go up today, sweet.
It'll take me forever. I'm not talking about War and Peace here. Leave the article with me. You can come back later for it.
Boss.
You asked Greg to give you the article, but you were just trying to make a point. Do you really have time to read it?
Hey, you ready to get started? I downloaded this Johnny Cash Wu-Tang mashup. Cash rules everything around me. It actually doesn't suck too bad. Figured we could listen to it.
You're sure that because your experiment is such a small part of the article that there's little, if anything, for you to check. You can read it after it's published. What do you want to do? 1, read the article. 2, skip reading and get to work.
What do you think? What do you think?
Get to work. Read it.
Raise hands.
Hey, read it.
Let's take a vote, guys. Who wants to go with read the article? Who wants to skip it and get back to work? I think that'd be that should be the more interesting outcome, right? We should say that. All right, the majority wants to read the article.
All right, sounds good.
I think we have some very ethical scheme to it.
Yes.
So you decide to read the article.
I'll catch you later. I have to read this.
What is it?
One of Greg's articles got accepted, and they're listing me as a co-author.
Okay. Well, when you're done, meet Johnny and the Rizzo. We'll be waiting. 'Cause I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Later, you read the article. Then you read it again. And then you read it again. Something isn't right. These weren't the results you remember from the rotation project. The published figures feature Western blots that appear to be different, and the disparity between the control groups seems more dramatic. While you don't have a photographic memory of the original film, you'd never forget the results. Your parents live about an hour away from campus, and the following weekend you decide to visit your mother. You figure your mother would be a good person to talk to about the article.
What does it mean that the figure was different?
Probably means that Greg or someone made a mistake.
It would have to be more than a little mistake.
Yeah, it'd be huge. You'd really have to take your eyes off the road almost completely to screw up like this.
Or
what?
Or maybe it wasn't a mistake.
What do you mean?
Maybe the data was changed on purpose to match the outcome someone wanted.
Yeah, I don't know, Mom. That seems a little far-fetched. No. And Greg wouldn't do something like that. He doesn't have to do something like that.
Just throwing out some ideas of what could have happened.
Right.
The good thing is, you didn't make a mistake and you didn't do anything wrong, so you'll be okay.
Yeah. But I was thinking of bringing this up with someone. Like maybe my PI.
Why would you do something like that?
Because something wrong happened here.
Well, this will be number 3, right?
My 3rd publication, yeah.
I say, leave well enough alone, honey.
No.
If this mistake were meant to be discovered, it would be. But you don't have to be the one to discover it.
Mom, listen. Science is about integrity. It doesn't matter how many discoveries you make. If there's no integrity, then it all falls apart.
I understand that, honey.
And so
probably do something. Listen, I don't want you to mess things up for yourself, Kim. You're almost finished now. When we finally get that degree, you'll be the first person in the family with a PhD. I know. Oh, me and Father are so proud of you. We brag about you at church all the time. We say, Kim will be a doctor soon. Well, not the kind that will save lives, but a doctor nonetheless.
Brag about me at church.
Of course, at church, the grocery store, the library, everywhere.
And you don't have the heart to tell your mom that if you come forward, the article may have to be retracted, which would be a setback. It could mean one less publication under your belt. This would affect how soon you complete your degree and possibly make you less attractive when you look for jobs after school.
I'm really happy that you're a scientist, but I wonder, why didn't you go into law like your brother?
No, don't
He
start.
has problems like this.
Well, that was helpful. You still haven't settled on what to do about the article, if anything. There are a lot of directions you can go. You want to do. 1, ask Greg about the article. 2, just let it go. 3, seek out more advice about what to do.
Okay, 3 choices now.
Third choice.
Let it go. Her mom's happy. Does nobody see that Kim brought someone else's unpublished work to a third party, violating Greg's research rights?
Whoa.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
I know, yeah, that's good. All right. Well, we have 3 choices, unfortunately. Just wait, there's another place here where I think there's like 900 choices or something. But anyway, so you want to ask Greg? Raise your hand. Let it go, raise your hand. Seek out more advice, raise your hand.
Ask Greg about the article. How many hands do you have? 6? 5? Let it go.
Oh, that's close. Okay.
Seek out more advice about what to do. Come on, it's a split. It's a tie between asking Greg and more advice. Anybody want to change? Anybody in the let it go category want to switch to one or the other?
Yeah, I'll switch to ask Greg about the article.
Okay. So that tipped it to Greg. We're going to go to Greg.
The whisper and speak. I just want to see you try to get in your head.
So you decide to ask Greg about the article.
Oh, good. How are you?
Greg, I need to talk with you about something.
So you explain to Greg that the data in the paper is different than the raw data that originally came from the rotations.
I think I would remember the results of my own experiments.
No offense, but obviously you don't. What's in the paper is the data we...
Greg, I think you need to go back and look at the original film. If you did, you'd see.
Kim, I think there's just been a mix-up. We're talking about experiments from 3 years ago.
You're right. I went back to my old notebooks. I don't have the original film or any digital copies anymore, but I do have this. They're the notes I took after I finished the experiment.
What are you saying with all of this?
Dun, dun, dun.
All I know is it doesn't add up.
That's what you think about your mother's suggestion about falsification. I hope he doesn't think you're accusing him of anything.
Have you gone to Aaron yet?
No, I thought I would talk with you first.
I appreciate that. Listen, I hear your concern, and I'll look into it. Better yet, why don't we both look into it? We can look over your notes and the original film and work our way through this mix-up.
Weeks go by, and Greg never gets together with you to get to the bottom of the discrepancies. And every time you bring it up, he's busy or it's not a good time for him. Eventually, your suspicions grow, and you decide to take this to someone outside of the lab. You find out from the university website that you need to contact Dr. Elizabeth Ridgely, the University Research Integrity Officer. It's her job to look into situations where cutting corners in research seem to have occurred. You meet with her, and after Beth Ridgely makes an initial assessment, she eventually feels there's grounds to move forward, and she comes to your lab to talk to Greg. She's not satisfied with what she sees and hears, and brings in her team to sequester data. And weeks later,
So we went over his data, and he seems to have evidence to support his results. So we're not going forward. It's very difficult to prove misconduct. And if there was misconduct, it's very possible he managed to go back and cover his tracks.
and that's when you question your decision to ask Greg about the article. It's probably not a good idea to confront or question someone you think may be falsifying or fabricating data. You may potentially tip them off and in turn thwart an investigation later. Let's try that again. Click Next or press the right arrow key to continue.
Well, that didn't work out too well now, did it?
You don't tell a robber that, like, you know he's gonna rob us.
He's kind of creepy. He's kind of creepy looking, I think.
Look, his physical, like aggressiveness, like. What the pepper spray?
All right, hit next. I think you might have another shot.
What do you want to do? 1, ask Greg about the article. 2, just let it go. 3, seek out more advice about what to do.
Oh, now you want to let it go? Now you want to just let it go?
Let it go.
No.
No. Want more advice?
All right. All right.
More advice?
Yeah.
Let it go.
After sleeping on it, you decide to seek out more advice. Getting advice has the potential to give you other perspectives that can help you make better decisions. You can also let others in on your dilemma so you don't feel so isolated. So who should you go to? You should probably be thoughtful about who you approach. Who should you seek advice from? 1, Steve.
Oh, man.
In the lab. 2, talk to Hardick, a postdoc in the lab. 3, talk to a respected former undergraduate professor. 4, talk to your cousin. 5, do research on the university website to seek out the proper authorities. 6, talk to your PI, Dr. Hutchins.
Primo. Wait, did he know about
Talk
it? Yeah, that was all right. No, he couldn't.
Could be. Cousin? Nobody likes cousin.
I said Primo. If it was the brother, because he's a lawyer, you know. It's the cousin. I don't know what cousin is. I don't know what he does.
You guys gonna go to the PI?
Yes.
No, the
Let's have it
research.
raised. Let's hear hands, or see hands on the PI. 2, only 2 for the PI, okay. Steve, fellow grad student, hands. Hardick, postdoc. Respected former undergraduate professor. Cousin? Do research on the university website. Seek out. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Did you see that, Bill? We're going to go with the proper authorities.
You weigh your options for a while, but eventually you decide to do some research on the university website. Eventually, you come across information about your university's Research Integrity Officer, or RIO.
Dr. Elizabeth Richmond.
However, it takes you another 2 weeks to actually dial the number.
Well,
This is high school.
This is bad, guys. This is bad.
hello?
Start breathing. She might go start breathing into the phone.
I can hear you breathing.
I know what you did last summer.
Ask her to prom already.
Hello? Yes, hello?
Dr. Elizabeth Ridgely? I'm trying to reach the research integrity person.
This is the Research Integrity Officer. Who's this?
Still there?
Yes.
How can I help you?
I'm calling to get more information, I guess.
I would be happy to give you any information you want.
I wanted to know what would happen if a certain situation occurred.
Is this certain situation real or hypothetical?
Well, the reason I ask is that
we can keep things in the hypothetical to protect your anonymity, that's fine. But if you tell me your name, or you make it clear that the events. Also, as long as we keep this hypothetical, there's no process in motion, it's just us talking. Oh.
Thanks.
If you decide to go on the record, so to speak, I'll do my best to keep our conversation confidential. What can I do for you?
As a complainant, you have a right to be anonymous. If you choose to reveal your identity to the University of Rios, however, they will strive to keep your name and the content of your interviews as confidential as they can throughout the process. This can help curtail retaliation and any backlash. Click Next or press the right arrow key to continue.
You don't want to do more information, right?
No, you just go next, and now you'll go back to Kim.
So, do you still want to stay anonymous and speak in the hypothetical? What do you want to do? 1, keep things hypothetical. 2, spill the beans.
These are expensive. Hypothetical.
Hypothetical?
No.
Okay, let's see your hands for hypothetical.
You guys are into this. This is good.
Now it's really annoying. This just got real.
She's gonna go talk to him though.
Who's gonna spill the beans? Avery, Aisha, you want to spill the beans? Okay, anybody else?
You ever bought these? They're expensive.
You're outvoted, Aisha.
Oh, this is a hypothetical situation.
All right, continue, please.
It involves altered data. Well, maybe. It could just be a mistake or carelessness.
That would be the best outcome, wouldn't it? If in this scenario, it just turned out to be an innocent mistake.
Yeah, it would, if it weren't hypothetical.
Right.
The question I had is that if a situation like this had occurred, what would someone do to report it? And what would your office do next?
Well, the first thing I would ask this someone to do is to come into my office to meet me face to face. And then
Dr. Ridgely gives you a brief overview of the process as it would relate to you, answers a few questions, and then puts the ball back in your court.
So, you come to my office today to meet me?
Me?
So what are you going to do? Go in for a face-to-face with Dr. Ridgely or not? What do you want to do? 1, drop it. 2, meet with Dr. Ridgely.
Where's the keep this hypothetical?
You should drop it.
Drop it. Let's move on. All right, who wants to meet with Dr. Ridgely? Raise your hand.
If we drop it, can we go back to like the PI now too?
Are we dropping it or?
Or raise your hand if you want to, I guess if you want to drop it. Raise your hand if you want to drop it. Raise your hand and meet with Dr. Ridgely. Okay.
So you decide to meet with Dr. Ridgely.
Sure, let's meet.
How soon can you get here?
You really want to meet today?
Is that all right?
Sure. I can be there in maybe 30 minutes.
A little aggressive.
That's great.
Yeah.
If you have anything that supports your story, like lab books or whatever data you might have, you should bring that with you, okay?
Later, Dr. Ridgely welcomes you into her office.
Hi, I'm Kimberly.
Hi, Kim. Beth Ridgely. Thank you so much for coming back.
Okay, so I tell you what happened and then what? Are you gonna call my PI? Because the postdoc we're gonna be talking about maybe his favorite. But are the police involved?
Okay, hold on, Kim. Only the people that absolutely need to know about the allegation will. Let me explain to you a little bit about the process of being a complainant. That's you, the person making the complaint, in a little more depth. I think it'll make you feel a little bit more comfortable. Okay, so I do a preliminary assessment. I talk to you, I look at what you've brought to support your suspicions, and then I go and talk to the respondent. if that's warranted. That's the person you think falsified data. And I let him know that there's been a question about his work, and I gave him a chance to show me that his work is well supported. So at that point, well, it may be over. It may all just be a misunderstanding and it all ends there. But if he can't show me that his work is well supported, then we go to the next step, an inquiry. And if this goes from an inquiry to an investigation, you may be asked to testify. But other than that, you don't have any role. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
At this point, your head is swimming. Do you really want to do this? What do you want to do? 1, leave now. 2, stay.
Accept the consequences to stay. Who wants to stay? Raise your hand. Who wants to get out? Now.
There's always one that wants to leave.
So you decide to stay and continue to talk.
Could you explain exactly what you could do to protect me? Again, I'm not 100% sure that anything wrong has happened, but just the fact that I'm asking questions is going to make some people mad.
That's a fair concern. As you know, you always have the option to keep this confidential. Only people who absolutely need to know your identity will. But honestly, at some point, it may become obvious who made the complaint. At that point, if there is any retaliation, we will take steps to protect you.
What could you do?
The university has measures in place. We work with your department head and with your PI to make sure that the retaliation stops. Also, we can do other things.
Dr. Ridgely goes on to elaborate, and although it sounds like she can give you some protection, the fact that there's still a chance that you could be isolated worries you.
Look, Kim, I want you to know that I understand and I appreciate how much courage it took for you to come here today to see me. I also know that if you choose to become a complainant, it will take even more guts. I can only imagine how scary the possibility of sticking your neck out is. And I don't know, if you choose to stand up in a situation like this, it's going to be tough. But I think it's worth standing up for. I really do.
Me too. That's why I'm here.
So you finally decide to tell Dr. Ridgely what you know about the situation with Greg in the article.
His name is Greg Anderson. Everybody likes him. If you met him, you'd see why. He's kind of the rock star of the lab.
Before you go into any more detail, would it be all right if I bring my assistant Patricia in here to take notes for me so I could give you my full attention?
Okay.
You display courage and poise. Good job. Dr. Ridgely does move forward, and she shows up at your lab to talk to Greg. And when she's not satisfied with what she sees and hears, she brings in her team to sequester data. Most people in the lab figure out that you're the complainant, and people pick sides.
What's up, guys?
Sorry, Kim. Complainants can be unpopular, and they are often isolated and excluded by friends, colleagues, professors, and even lab mentors. Unfortunately, RIOs can't protect complainants from being ostracized. RIOs are able to protect complainants if there is retaliation that affects their employment or education. Click Next or press the right arrow key to continue.
Go ahead.
Not only are you ostracized, but you also feel the backlash in the form of retaliation. It starts with petri dishes becoming mysteriously contaminated. Then some of your samples get ruined when they're removed from the freezer.
I'm the cousin.
Whoops, where are you? I lost you. Oh, there you are.
Steve, you see my notebook?
No.
Dr. Hutchins tries to protect you by relocating you further away from Greg, but what he calls protection isolates you further. Also, he stops approving the kinds of experiments that you're used to doing because, as he puts it,
they overlap too much with Greg's research. I want to keep you two completely separated, and that includes your work. For your protection.
this essentially sets back the research that you need to do to complete your dissertation. Retaliation is any adverse action taken against a complainant, witness, or committee member by any institution or one of its members in response to A, a good faith allegation of research misconduct, or B, good faith cooperation with a research misconduct proceeding. Suspected instances of retaliation should be reported immediately to the university RIA. Click Next and press the right arrow key to continue. Eventually, it all becomes unbearable, and you go back to Beth Richland. Together, you both decide that the best thing to do is for you to transfer labs. You'll have to get used to a new lab all over again. Also, the emphasis here is not exactly the same as the focus in the Hutchins lab. That means you'll have to tweak your dissertation a little to fit in. This switch looks to push back your graduation almost a year. It's a good thing you were ahead of schedule to receive a PhD, huh? Being a complainant hasn't been the end of the world, but it hasn't been easy either. Dr. Ridgely keeps telling you that you did the right thing, but to be honest, there are times when you're not so sure. Then, you make one of your regular trips to see your mother, but when you get there, you're nervous. You still haven't told her yet about transferring labs and that your graduation may be pushed back.
How things been?
Good, huh? The guy Greg, is he still in your lab?
Yeah, I think I can leave. Not yet. So, I've had to transfer labs.
Change labs completely? That doesn't seem fair. I mean, they can't make you leave like that.
Mom, I decided to move. It's my choice. University's been really helpful, and it's actually a better environment by far.
What?
Well, the new lab is a little different. So I had to change my dissertation, just change the focus of my dissertation just slightly. It just set me back a bit.
That's not good. Do you regret coming forward?
Honestly, I do a little.
Recently, me and your father were at church talking to Reverend Lee, and he asked about you. Your father told him that you were in the middle of a controversy at school. He said that, I thought I would die. I thought Reverend Lee would be disappointed in you for making trouble and us for not stopping you as your parents. Reverend Lee listened, and you know what he did? He shook your father's hand. He said, "Congratulations, you have a hero in the family." They went around and told everyone that you were a hero for protecting the law. So others came over and shook your father's hand too. Until then, I never looked at it that way. Yeah, my daughter is a hero. I like the sound of that. So after that, I started bragging about you. You know, my daughter is a hero. I am so proud of you. Always have been and always will.
Thanks.
Must be something.
Maybe a whole extra year.
But you will finish, right?
Of course.
Yeah, just want to make sure. I wouldn't know what to tell people otherwise. Well, that was-
Life status? Leader. You are key to bringing Greg's misconduct to light. This is a moment you'll always be proud of. Click Next or press the right arrow key to continue. Congratulations. You've successfully navigated the challenges of a grad student. You may go back and explore different outcomes for this character, or go to the main menu and play as another character. Click Next or press the right arrow key to continue.
Okay, you can mute that. Okay, mine's still going. There we go. I just turned mine off. So there you go. You can sit down with a beverage of your choice and go through all the other avenues of those anytime you want. They're pretty entertaining. There's some interesting things about these videos, but I think the points are important and useful. What do you think?
Like my diploma now.
Yeah. Sorry, I kept it 12 minutes over. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you got her done. Thanks very much, you guys. So, like I said in the PowerPoint slides, if you have any questions or any thoughts or concerns, feel free to email me anytime, and we can try and provide you anything you guys need. Read through those other things if you find that interesting or not, or if you got any questions, let me know. Anything else? Otherwise, we'll sign off. Felipe, do you have anything to say?
No, thank you guys.
You have the evaluation, or is there?
I do, but it's gonna open in the computer and nobody else is using a computer, so we can send the link to them later.
Oh, okay. All right. Check. Mike, are you good?
We're good. Thanks so much, Bill. That was fun there.
All right. Good. All right. Now go get